Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Shit Talking Podcast. I'm Christina.
Well, we have to introduce ourselves because our names aren't up.
Yes, we don't know why our names aren't shown.
You may not know who we are. So that is Christina, not Christine. And I am Robin, spelled with a Y. So
yeah.
that's
Robin
who we are.
with a Y. Not Robin with an I. And then I picture the big I.
Yes, not Robin with, yes. So we had, I really think, Christina, we should start just recording the Shit Talking podcast before we actually go live, because I feel like we talk a lot of shit before we actually go live with you guys. And then we start the show and we feel like we need to just be proper and do things officially. But we're talking about disappointment. And I think we kind of came in to talk about things that just disappointed us today. So
Yes.
What has disappointed you today?
Okay,
Christina?
so I was just bitching to Robin about, because this just happened. So, and I'd love to hear what my ladies in the peanut gallery think, but I want to hear what the men think too. So I got this recruiting agreement because we need to hire some people for our firm, and we've been having a hard time finding people. So I have been in contact with a recruiter, a woman, and she sent me a contract. I was reviewing the contract. And first of all, she put my name in the contract as Christine, not Christina, which if anybody talks to me for like 5 minutes knows that irritates the fuck out of me. It really does. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. So there's that. And then the other thing, this pisses me off more. So the name of my firm is Previtt Knocklinger. I'm Christina Previtt. My partner is John Knocklinger. And she put, and I didn't give her this information, so she had to go looking for it. She put our names in the contract. She put John's name first. And then she put my name, Christine, by the way, in case I didn't mention that.
your name, well, technically not your name. She actually didn't put your name at all.
She put Christine Previtt's name, whoever she is.
Whoever that is.
So it just pisses me off that and because this happens so much, why do people feel like they need to put the man's name first?
Or do you guys in the peanut gallery even think that this is a gender issue? Because, I know that I do. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. Like, I feel that for the most part, people who don't know any better tend to assume that, especially when they're dealing with the name of a business or a company, when there's names involved, that the first name is kind of like the main person, and there's the other person, and there's the person that came after them. Like, I don't know, but I think that there's that assumption, which is not necessarily true. By way of example, in my firm, my partner and I are completely equal partners. There's really not any rhyme or reason to whose name came first. But the reality of the situation is most people who don't know would think, well, if your name came first and I've been dealing with you, you're probably the person I'm dealing with. So I'm interested to know, what people would think about the fact that, like, why did John's name come first? And if your partner were a woman, and Christina and I talk about that because my partner and I are both women, so I don't get the same gender feel. Like, if somebody puts my partner's name first, I don't think it's a gender issue. In fact, what I will tell you is that there are certain things in our firm that she deals with and certain things that I deal with. If she's been the point person on it, it makes sense to me if her name's first. Like, if she's been talking to the person, but in this situation, you were talking to the lady.
Yes. I was talking to her. She doesn't know him. She had no communication with him. She was only communicating with me. And I don't think I even gave her his name.
Right, so, she had to look up his name.
She had to go look up his name. So I mean, I'm probably a little more pissed off about this right now than I should be, but it's just irritating, and it's irritating because it's something that happens fairly often.
It's funny because, our peanut gallery says surprising from a female. I'm not surprised. I think women are just as bad sometimes, if not worse, with the fact that sometimes women are so socialized that men are the decision makers.
Yes. Well,
and maybe subconsciously, maybe not even consciously, maybe subconsciously. Well, I'm sure that she needs John to sign off on this.
yes, I need, excuse me, I'm going to have potty mouth. Yeah, I need the dick to give me permission. That's what I need. You can tell I'm really fired up over this. And
have you eaten today? Maybe you're hungry.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, no, that doesn't help. It doesn't help.
I'm hungry. Am I hangry? Am I technically hangry right now?
You might be hangry at this moment. But you know what? There are times where I go into situations and I purposely don't eat so that I'll be hangry. Like I need that extra like fire because I don't want to be too nice about it to be like hangry.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. And then Steve says, interesting, but you two wouldn't presume men first. Why should a woman? Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of my thinking.
Well, not everybody's as enlightened as us.
That's right.
I mean,
it's the stereotypes though, right? It's like what you started out with, those old, gender norms. And this is a woman. I don't know how old she is. I'm kind of curious because
maybe you should write her and say, excuse me, you old antiquated hag. How old are you? Do you want me to write the email? Maybe I should email her.
Look, I don't want to attack her because even though I'm upset about it, I don't think that it's a reason to attack somebody. I think it might actually be a situation where she just needs to kind of be educated, and it needs to be brought to her attention. And maybe she won't do it again to someone else in the future. Certainly not me. But I already did sort of enlighten her. I'm putting that finger quotes. I enlightened her by sending her an email and just pointing it out. And
yeah,
I lightened it up with an emoji smiley face. So somebody wants a recap of what happened. And I'll give you a long story short, Peanut Gallery, because you just joined us. So we're going to catch you up to speed. Essentially, Christina, not Christine, was dealing with this hoe. And this hoe had the audacity to send her back a contract with her male partner's name first, despite the fact that she didn't even know who he was, right? Didn't even know his name, puts his name first and said, wait, pull it back up. So she puts his name first and then actually acknowledges that you are the CEO and co-founder and he's the she's all messed up in the game. So you put the CEO of the company second on a contract. Who's our contract attorneys right now? I'm starting to think she's running this business out of a van.
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, she calls him co-owner and you co-founder. So is there another co-owner and another co-founder? Like
what else you got to see? Do you see the O in co? That's a 0. That's not even an O.
Okay. So here's what we've determined. We have determined that she's running this business out of the back of a van and that you cannot have your recruiting done by this company. And what I will also say, I had this conversation with somebody else today, a minivan. When I had this conversation with somebody else today, I said, and maybe this is the right or wrong approach, you guys can all tell me. If you are contacting me and you are attempting to get me to spend my money with you, and I know that we've had this conversation before because I'm super cheap. So it could be $20 I'm spending with you. Like, I want freaking VIP treatment. Like, you better know my name. You better spell it right. You better talk to me a certain way. Because if not, I will just say, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit and this conversation is over. Because the reality is, we deal in just one freaking, it's a good thing it's a fake dreadlock because anyway, it's in the way.
Hair problem.
Hair problems. But I think that we're both in a legal profession where we understand, right? Like you can't throw a rock without hitting an attorney in the state of New Jersey. I think right now they're saying there's 90,000 attorneys in New Jersey.
That's why
Something
everyone's
like
so
that.
nasty here.
Right. But I think with that said, we all know that when we have a potential new client come to us, we in a way need to sell that client, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is why you should come to this firm. This is why this is the best place for you. I like to be treated the same way when I'm going to spend my money with someone. So if you're, first of all, getting things wrong, you're not saying my name right, you've already offended me by putting my male partner's name in front of me, I'll just say, you know what, there's 900 recruiters out there. I'll find another one because I don't like you now.
Yeah, and her fee is probably commensurate with other places that I've seen. So do you want to know what I'm doing with this, guys?
Oh.
I mean, I could print
You
another
see?
one. I'm done. We're done. Hey, John, I see John. I was going to call him a potty word, but he won't know what we're talking about if he wasn't watching.
He just got. We've been talking about you the whole time, John. So
Yes,
you should.
John. We're going to tell the story now for the fourth time. It's long, really short. The recruiting contract that I got via email has me named as Christine, and it has your name first, John, even though it's Prevet Knocklinger. Somehow, the dick's always got to go first. So,
well, I guess the dick does always have to go first, but it's a little annoying. It's just annoying because it's kind of like, all right, well, and I would feel differently if you had both been dealing with this woman and she knew both of you. It was kind of like, all right, I don't, because sometimes it could just be, well, I just liked John better. I'm sure there are times that people deal with my partner and me and they genuinely just like my partner better, because sometimes I can be a little harsh, but like maybe they're like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to type it up. But she literally had to look up the name, find out who you were, John, and then put your name first. And then she messed up all the titles. Like, you had one title, she had another title. And it's like, I don't like this woman.
John says I definitely have a bigger duck than him. I think there was a typo there, though.
Do you have a duck?
I don't have a duck. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a duck, but I think I got you, John. Gotcha.
Got it. I don't hear you anymore, Christina.
Oh, I'm back.
There you go. There you go.
Since the topic of the show is disappointment, how do I deal with this? Like, do you think this classifies as a disappointment, right?
Well, I do think that you're disappointed in her behavior. Like, you're disappointed that there was an undercurrent, whether conscious or subconscious, of some sexism in what happened there.
I mean, it's not like it was a wedding invitation, right? Do you put the man's? No, actually, don't you put the woman's name first on a wedding invitation?
I think you do. Well, I don't know. I think it's like the parents of this person and the parents of bride and the parents of who are like the good, polite society people in our peanut gallery. I believe it's like the parents of the bride and the parents of the groom invite you to this wedding. But I don't think that you need to handle it further. I think that you did exactly the right thing, which is that you, I think, politely called her out and basically just said, I'm just wondering why the contract looked this way.
Well, okay. And, sometimes when we have disappointments like this too, sometimes you can kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we as divorce lawyers, we always tell people, don't spend your life savings on principles. Okay. Yeah. Principles aren't going to pay the bills. You're not really going to sleep better at night. So I could handle this one of two ways. I could just say, F you, you got my name wrong. Your contract is a little sloppy. I'm offended. I'm just going to work with someone else. Or I could overlook that and be like, you know what? At the end of the day, if she finds me a candidate that I want to hire, that's what's really important, isn't it? Because it's been really hard to find people. Isn't that really what's important? Could I maybe be a little short-sighted if I just dismiss her like that? Because what if she does have a good candidate that would be a great fit for me?
Well, here's a couple of things, right? I think that you can do both. John says tell him to go fuck himself.
Really? That surprised me. He's usually the voice of reason.
I think that you can do both. I think that you can use this as a teachable moment because you did kind of call her out and go, I'm wondering why you did this, which could be a teachable moment for her. And then if she does happen to find you a good candidate, then you both taught her something that she might not have otherwise thought about, because that could have been something that she did completely subconsciously and that she didn't even realize, and maybe sitting there going, I wonder why I did that. And maybe that's giving her, some self-awareness. Additionally, she knows that you pay attention to detail. So she knows she better find you a damn candidate that also pays attention to detail, because you've shown her what you sent me is unacceptable. So she would know when she's looking, to recruit for you, that person needs to fit that, because you're going to want your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And I'm not freaking Christine. So,
yeah. I mean, that right there is irritating. Christine.
I don't know. It's very funny. I remember, this was a few years ago, but my partner and I had somebody come in to service our copier, right? And we're both in the office, and it's a small office. It's just the two of us at the time. We weren't in our grand palace that we're in. We're not in a grand palace, but whatever.
Your palatial estate. That's what
it's a grand palace to me. But we were in like our very first office, and this guy comes in and he's fixing the copier, and he's like, I called him Father Time, right? Because he was just old. And then when he gets done fixing everything up, he's like, all right, well, who do you girls have that can write me a check?
What? What? Okay, first of all, I called you girls.
Girls. Okay.
And you can't write a check. Was that the implication?
But I've not been a girl in a long time. So poor Liz. And this is why I say that I feel like people just genuinely like her better, because I lost my shit. And meanwhile, Liz is like, it's okay. Calm down. But I'm literally looking at him and I'm going, the name of the firm is Ross & Calandrillo. You got Ross & Calandrillo. What do you want? Who the fuck do you think can write you a check? So I'm getting all annoyed by this. And Liz is like, he's 100. Why do
we make excuses though? Why is that an excuse? 100? Okay, he's 100, but he's still alive, which means you should, know how to read a room.
That is true. After all of that time, you really should know how to read a room. No, I do agree with that. I do.
And John brings up another point here, which I didn't even notice. And I can't show it to you because I already ripped up the contract. He says that he was referred to as Mr. John Knocklinger. And even though I was referred to as Christine Previtt, I was not referred to as Ms. Christine Previtt. I was just Christine Previtt.
John, you're killing me. I was trying to give this lady the benefit of the doubt. It's not looking good.
No,
it's not looking good for her. It's really not.
Well, we'll see if she responds to my emails.
Well, you already ripped it up, so.
So now, she emailed it to me, so I could always print it again. But so what do I do then? And John, please pipe in here. Do I just tell her, we're not interested in your business, and that's it? Do I give her an explanation, or do I just simply ignore her?
Ooh.
What do you guys all think?
I'd ignore her. But you know what? I have also perfected the art of passive aggressiveness. So I would probably just ignore her, because, and the way that I would justify it in my mind is, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to explain things to you. I don't have time to educate you. I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not signing your contract. And if she really is up your ass, well, what's going on? Why aren't you signing my contract? What's happening? And I would say, you know what? There are a couple of things. The contract you presented to me was not acceptable. I sent you an email explaining that it was not acceptable. Your response was also not acceptable. And for that reason, I just don't really want to work with you.
Yeah, I like that explanation. And it's kind of consistent with what Steven said. Can I call you Steven?
You can. I'm going to answer for him.
because I hate to just be
That's
presumptuous and think I
that's
can
what
just-
happens here on the Shit Talking podcast. We just make decisions for people. So Steve is now going to be Steve. That's
Well,
what it is.
because we're talking about names, people getting names wrong, right? David
That's true.
David Nagel, who I talk about all the time, he does not go by Dave. So if you call him Dave, he will correct you. That's not my name. I don't go by Dave. John, people will call him Jonathan. But his name is not Jonathan. The name on his birth certificate is John. So why would you just decide like, it says John, they'll just make an assumption that, he's probably Jonathan and I'm going to be all cutesy and I'm going to call him Jonathan. Meanwhile, that's not his damn name.
I usually just go by however people introduce themselves to me.
Yes.
So so for example, if you introduced yourself to me, and I know that you say, and in my mind, I'm close to you, but I know that you say that people close to you call you Tina. I will never call you Tina. Like you didn't introduce yourself to me that way. That's just not what I call you. Like, I don't know. It's just, and maybe we're past the point of me being able to change your name. Maybe we're just past it. I don't know.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you the story behind the name. I'll keep it short because I've told it so many times. It's not really all that interesting. So growing up, I was Tina. Don't ask me why, Mom, if you're watching, we need to talk about this because if you wanted my name to be Tina, why didn't you just name me Tina? So she named me Christina, but called me Tina. So I grew up being Tina. And then when I went to law school and I became this big time lawyer, I went to this law firm and frankly, the paralegal was like, maybe not the swiftest. And she couldn't figure out that when I introduced myself as Tina, but all my legal documents had Christina on it, she didn't like put two and two together that was the same person. And so people would call my office looking for me, but they would ask for Christina because that's the name that was on my pleadings and legal documents. And she'd just be like, there's nobody here by that name. And then, hang up on them. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, look, I'm going to make it real easy for you, girlfriend. Just call me Christina. Okay. And then everybody started calling me Christina.
Talk about disappointment. Like, there are times where people they open their mouths and you go, I couldn't be more disappointed right now. Like that is such a disappointing story. Like, I feel like I don't know, there's really not a way to shorten Robin. I guess if I was like, oh, okay, like all my friends call me like Rob. And I have friends like my dad calls me Bobby.
Or Ro. We could call you Ro.
I also have friends that call me Ben.
Ben, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. And they actually spell it B-Y-N. Ben. Like, that's just what they call me. But, like, I feel like if I went somewhere and I said, oh, hey, my name is Robbie Ross. And then somebody calls and says, I'd like to speak to Robin Ross. I would think you'd put it together.
Yes. Well, that's how it all started, peeps. Christina's my stage name, my lawyer stage name. We won't talk about my stripper stage name because
we talked about strippers last week.
Last week. So maybe what we could do. So you know how there's like J-Lo, she's got that clever little moniker, but then like Kimye, like Kim, well, they're not together anymore, but when they were, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, how they kind of make this an amalgamation of the couple. Well, who was the other ones? Like Ben and Jennifer were Benifer. Brad and Angelina were Brangelina. So what would Robin and I be? Silence. Crickets. Could we be Crispin? Oh. Can you not hear me? Shit. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Just nod if you can hear me. Can you hear me? No. I don't know what's wrong. Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me? I don't know what to do. Can you guys hear me right now? I can't hear Robin. Robin, can you type something in the comments because I can't hear you? Well, I can't hear I don't know if anybody can hear me. Robin, can you hear me? Just shake your head if you can hear me. Okay, so I guess you can't hear me. So you guys can hear, okay, you guys can hear me. Well, you know, it's odd because I can't hear myself, and usually I could hear that. But anyway, I don't even know what the hell I was rattling on about, but maybe Robin needs to go back out and come back in. So when I was logging in, there was something that popped up that said that Facebook was having some streaming problems. So I don't know if it's that or if it's Robin, but she's going to go out and come back in. I don't even know what the hell I was rambling on about. Does anybody? Hopefully you guys were listening. What was okay, combining names. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Steve. So anybody got any bright ideas about that? Don't even ask me why my mind went there. I have no idea. You back, Robin? Can you hear us? She can't hear us. We cannot do the show without Robin. She's just got that vacant stare. Can you hear me, Robin? Shake your head if you can hear me. So the bad thing about this is when this happens, this is all well and good through Facebook, but when this happens, we can't really post this on our podcast. I can hear you now, Robin.
Well, I disconnected my headphones. That's what I did.
Okay, so that's what it was. Maybe we could just cut that part out. So I was just explaining to the Peanut Gallery, who thank you for staying with us, guys, that when this happens, it kind of ruins the recording. Not Facebook, because it doesn't really matter what's on here, but when we upload it to the podcast, like, you know, does anybody really want to sit through a podcast where you're just talking about how your microphone doesn't work?
Well, this is what I will tell you guys. My family in the Peanut Gallery. I have purchased at least 3 different apparati. Who's the Latin speaker here? Apparati.
Is it apparatuses?
Well, no, because apparatus would be like the male singular of the Latin. So I think the male plural of the Latin is apparati.
Yes.
Apparati would be the female plural. I remember this from high school. That's all I got. But anyway, I bought all sorts of shit. Okay. And the shit never works. Like I go online and I go like best microphone. And then what'll happen is Christina will send me microphones. Like she'll go like, why don't you try this one? And I'm like, that's a great idea. Ask me, guys, if I've purchased any of the microphones that Christina has. Well, I purchased the first one, I think was the one you recommended, but that one doesn't work either.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, maybe one day when I come over, because you're going to make me lamb chops. Actually, we could totally do that. We've both been vaccinated.
We have. You know what? We should do a podcast just of me making lamb chops for Christina.
We should. And it'll be, we could put it on YouTube.
Right. It'll be like our cooking show.
So this is what happened. Well, it'll be your cooking show, my eating show. So what, and drinking, you know.
And drinking.
I could be like a mixologist. I will learn how to be a mixologist. I can make the cocktails.
You can bartend. I will make lamb chops, maybe some pearled couscous. I'm a fan of a pearled couscous.
That sounds good. John says he's been vaxxed too.
We're gonna have a vaxxed lamb chop party at my house. That is the plan.
That sounds awesome. I love that. So I feel like I need to take some like what is it, ginseng, or is it ginkgo biloba is supposed to make your memory better, right? I feel like I need that because I just like start forgetting about. We go on so many different tangents that I just forget what the hell we're talking about.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody in our peanut gallery asked you, who is David Nagel? And I would like you to answer that question.
Do you?
I mean, I do, but
okay.
But I think other people need to know because you're very into him. And I actually have some questions about his philosophies based upon this topic that we're talking about.
This is like my favorite thing to talk about.
Which is disappointment. So why don't you tell the peanut gallery who he is? And then I will ask a couple of questions and I'm going to ask obnoxious questions.
Well, let's see, because I just did the Art of Success Summit that David Nagel was hosting for the past 3 days. So I'm all David Nageled out. I'm filled to the brim with David Nagel. So my friend Lauren said, who's David Nagel? And the reason she said that is because we sort of have this inside joke that I talk about him so much that now everything is always like, who's David Nagel? I don't remember. I don't know if you've ever talked about him before. It's like, ha ha, I get it, funny. Heather Keith, she was in the Art of Success Summit too. So you guys can chime in because, I love David, but I'm sure I get plenty of shit wrong that he says. So, correct me if I'm getting something wrong. But he's a coach. He's been a coach for like 20 to 30 years. I'm not quite sure how to characterize him, like a mindset coach, a success coach, personal development coach. It really teaches you how to think and how to think to be successful and have the life that you want. So he teaches a lot of business owners how to make money, but it's not really about money. It's just about whatever you want in your life. Okay. So that's kind of the short explanation of him.
So I guess the question I had, right, because when I started thinking about this topic of dealing with disappointment, right, I'm wondering if we as a society somewhat set ourselves up for disappointment, especially I think more now than perhaps in the past. Like I'm just thinking about the culture of like everyone gets a trophy, for example. Like, are we kind of being taught that we're all winners when in reality, we're not all winners? That's just not life. You know what I mean? So my question would be, and I am not I don't know what you would call it, like a mentee, I guess, of David Nagel, but I've listened to some of his podcasts and I'm kind of wondering, what he might say about something like that. And I'm not saying you need to know, right? Because you're not obviously in his head, but I'm wondering, like, when you look at people who are coaches or mentors or kind of like, you can get the things you dream and you can get the success you want and you can live your best life. Is there still some reality check of like, maybe you can't? Like, what if he had somebody he was coaching who goes, I want to be, a famous surgeon. And you're like, well, you suck at science. You didn't finish high school. Like, is there some level of reality of you need to not set yourself up for disappointment?
Well, I think what David would say, and I'm curious, peanut gallery people who are familiar with David, let me know if you agree. I think what he would say about that is that all of us have a purpose and we all desire things that are consistent with our purpose. So if whatever you desire, it is consistent with your purpose if you desire that, because if it wasn't something that you could do, or if it wasn't setting you up somehow on track to, find the thing that is your purpose, you wouldn't desire it in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? So
I get it. I guess what I'm wondering is, I feel like we're in this place of such positivity, which I think is a good thing, and I'm not saying it's recent, right? But I think there has been kind of like a shift a little bit where people are looking at the mindset of, we're all cheerleading for everybody else. You can do it. You can do whatever you want. If that's what you want, you can go get it. But in reality, right? Somebody, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way, somebody needs to answer your phones at the office. Not everybody can be the boss. Not everybody can be the business owner. Not everybody can be the CEO. Like the guy who comes in my office to empty my trash, somebody has to do that. And he may be thinking to himself, this isn't my best life. This isn't the life I want to live. I don't want to be emptying Robin's trash. Why does she eat so many bags of pretzels? Like this may be what he's thinking, but not everybody can be the boss. Somebody has to be the person who's not the boss in order for like society to work. So how do we deal with the fact that we're all doing the like, no, go out and live your best life and you can do it. And if you don't want to work at this job, quit that shitty job and start your own business. Well, if everybody's out there starting businesses, who's going to work the damn businesses?
Well, Robin, not everybody wants to own a business.
That's true.
So that's where your desire comes in.
That is true.
There are plenty of people that don't want to run a business. I mean, and I'm not going to say that running a business is like the greatest thing ever. I think it works for me personally, but I can absolutely see why I'll talk about lawyers in particular. There's plenty of lawyers that are like, I don't want to run a firm. I have absolutely no desire to run a firm. I don't want that responsibility. I just don't want to do it. I was
one of them.
Right? I'd just rather go to practice law. That's what I want to do. And that's that. And I'm sure that we all want to make money, but about money, I think if, people put different emphasis on money. Some people need to be wealthy. That's what they want. They want to have all the fancy toys. Some people, it's not that important to them.
But that's kind of not what my concern is, more what my question is. Because even what John said, he goes, there are some people that think they're destined to only empty trash cans, right? And
they need to bagel then.
But that's my thing, right? So if we take every person who says, you know what? I'm happy in emptying trash cans. It's a low stress job. I walk around, I talk to people. Robin's office always has food. They're always like, do you want some tacos? You want, like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they're happy with that. But I feel like then there are people that would encounter those same people, right? And they go, well, you should want more than that. Why do you only want that? Why aren't you desiring more? Why aren't you trying to do more with your life? And then the people who are maybe happy where they are, even though it's not where we think they should be, we're almost setting them up for disappointment by saying, you should be disappointed with your life. Your life's not good enough. So are we always doing people a service by the level of cheerleading that we do? By saying to somebody, you can do better than that. You deserve more than that. Like, what if they don't want more?
David isn't telling people that you have to be better. Like, he's not coming out and go, hey, Robin, you know what? You could do better. He's not saying that. First of all, the people go to him, right?
So that's a difference. That's a huge difference. If I'm coming to you, I want that reinforcement.
It's because they want something. If you are going to coaching events, it's because you're looking for something. Because if you were completely, totally satisfied with your life, you wouldn't be out there looking for coaching. The people that are going to these things, they're looking for that. They do desire something. I'm not going to say necessarily it's something better. Like, it's not for me to judge whether you've reached the pinnacle of your career, or if the guy changing the garbage cans should desire something more for himself. That's not for me to decide. That's for each individual to decide what they want.
Well, maybe I used a bad example because I agree. Somebody going to David Nagel obviously wants more. Like, they're wanting to develop themselves in a way. But I do think that sometimes what I'm seeing, and I feel like I've witnessed this a couple of times, right? Where there's someone who's never said they desired more, but you have people saying to them, well, have you ever thought about finishing school? Or maybe you should go to college, or maybe you should do this. Or, I'm sure you want more than just being a receptionist. Like, don't you want more than that? Can't you go do more? And I think that sometimes the person who didn't even ask for that is now being pushed by somebody when they didn't ask for that pushing. And I'm wondering if sometimes our desire to be positive and encouraging can end up being discouraging. Because
are you talking about David, or are you just talking in general?
Oh, in general. I don't, because I can't say that I know. Do you see how upset she gets when she thought I was talking about David? Did you see her face? She's like, were you talking about David?
Well, because I just saw something Steve said, and I love Steve. He's always on here and supportive of us. He says that David is selling what you're looking to hear. And I hear that a lot, that people think David, and coaches in general, are just there's snake oil salesmen. And I disagree. I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty snake oil salesmen. They don't give two shits about you, and they just want to make some money. But I do think that there are a lot of really great coaches out there that are doing wonderful things to help people. And yeah, they're getting paid for it. And yeah, a lot of them are making a lot of money doing that. But if someone can teach you how to make $1 million a year, is that not worth $100,000 a year? No, I mean,
yeah, but to me, like I said, again, that's the difference, because you're going to him and seeking that
yes.
encouragement. Like, you're saying to him, here are the things I want in my life, and I want somebody to help me to attain those things. I think that what I sometimes get concerned about is we're so in a society about bringing people up that I think sometimes we can like poo-poo what people are already doing as if it's not good enough. And then for that reason, people may start becoming disappointed with their lives simply because we told them that they should be. Just because we said, you know what, that's probably not good enough for you. And then they are like, yeah, maybe my life does suck. Maybe I should be doing more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a terrible case of keeping up with the Joneses, especially here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And especially, I think, in this Northeast area. I don't know. I mean, I think as an individual, you're responsible for yourself, and you're responsible for how you feel, and you're responsible for what messages you let come in, right? Like, and these are things that I've become much more aware of through coaching, is that there's going to be a lot of people that praise me. There's going to be a lot of people that criticize me. And I really can't let any of it get to my head in a positive, overly positive or overly negative way. I have to decide for myself, what do I want? And I think that's actually something that David talks about a lot, is what do you want? He poses that question to people all the time. What do you want? And a lot of people, when you first ask them, myself included, don't even know. Like, I don't know. And then he'll say, because they say it all the time, and then he'll say, well, if you did know, what would it be? Because some people actually really have to think about it. And David went through a whole teaching today about how, and I can't do the whole art of success in 3 days that we did in 3 days in like a couple minutes here, but we're getting this programming from the time we're born, right? It's like, what influences did you have at home? Like what you were saying, is getting a trophy for everything. Or, some people weren't getting trophies. Some people were getting abused. Some people, whether it was verbal abuse or something worse, we've all had different childhoods. And what messages did we get during that time? Because we do carry those into our adulthood. So, and those messages don't always serve you when you become an adult. So the question becomes, what do you really want? Do you really want to change garbage cans? Okay, if you do, then that's okay. More power to you.
Well, and again, I have not been to any of David's events. Like I said, I've heard some of his podcasts. I do like many of the things he said, but I think that part of it is where, taking David out of it. And let's say you go to some of these other people who might just be motivational. That they might take that same message and say, well, what do you want? Okay, well, visualize what you want, because once you know what you want, you can get on a path to make that happen. Newsflash, we don't always get what we want. That's just not life. Like, that's not reality. So I think that what some of my pushback is that if we're constantly pushing the message that you should always get what you want, that's not reality. We don't always get what we want. Like, that's just not like right now, I want a cheeseburger. Guess what? I'm not getting a cheeseburger. It's not going to happen right now. Like,
that's a choice.
That's disappointment. You know what I mean? But I'm obviously.
I know, but it is
a
choice. It's a choice. It's a choice.
But some things aren't choices. So for example, you know what? I want to go back to my 20s. Well, that's not going to happen. I can't shave time off of my life. You know what I mean? So I may say, I want to not have wasted the last 10. I'm not talking about me personally. I don't think I wasted shit. But I might say, I want to not have married my ex-husband. I want to not have wasted the last 10 years of my life in a toxic relationship. And maybe you could do deeper digging and be like, well, what do you really want underlying that? Are you trying to say that you want better experience? But what if somebody says, no, I want that time back. I feel like, I would have done things differently. Or, maybe I would say, I want to be a supermodel. Guess what? Whether I want that with every fiber of my being, odds are that's not going to happen. Even if that's really what I want, maybe if deep down that's what I want. I think there needs to be some realism sprinkled in there of like, okay, what do you want within reason? Because I do think that on some level, we can't constantly set people up to think that they always get what they want. Because sometimes
who establishes within reason? Who decides what that means? Like, I could say, you know what? I want to be a famous podcaster. I want more downloads than Joe Rogan.
Okay.
And somebody might say, well, do it, girlfriend. Do what you got to do. Like, it might take you 10 years, but do it. Learn how to do that. But then there might be someone else like, stop it. That's never going to happen. Don't even try. You're never going to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And like, so who am I supposed to listen to? Who gets to establish how far I can go?
I don't know. I guess my other question would be not only who establishes that, but like, how do we know where the line is between when we're being supportive and being like, yes, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and setting somebody up for disappointment. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where that line is, because I do think we should be supportive. I do think that if somebody, like, if you're my friend and I'm telling you that my desire is this, you should, as my friend, support me. You know what I mean? And go, if that's what you want, do what you got to do to go get it. You know what I mean? But then I think because some people have that constant, participation trophy life, that they're not equipped to handle disappointment. And I'll give you an example. I remember having a conversation with my sister, and she was concerned because, as parents, they do things for their kids. Oh, you want to be in this activity? We'll do it. We'll pay for this. We'll put you in this league. We'll put you in that league. And she got so used to like, well, if I want to be on the cheerleading squad, I will be. And if I want to do this, then I will be. That when she had to start trying out for shit and not making it, she didn't know how to deal with that disappointment, because everything was always given to, well, you participated. Here you go. That's great. You did a good job. You want to be an actress, go be an actress. And I'm making stuff up. She was never an actress. But it almost got her to a place that when she became disappointed, she didn't know how to handle that disappointment, because it was never taught to her as a child how to handle the fact that sometimes things don't happen the way you want to. Sometimes you're going to go on a job interview and you're not going to get the job. How do you handle that disappointment if you're never taught that?
I think that's different though, because telling somebody that you can have what you truly desire in life is not the same as saying you can have everything you desire in life and you're never going to fail and you're never going to experience failures and you're never going to experience disappointment. I don't think those are the same things. You are going to experience disappointment. You are going to fail. That's part of life. There's no way to avoid that. But those disappointments and those failures are really just redirecting you. It's like life's little GPS, just course correcting. Like, okay, I tried that. Like, Charlemagne the God?
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be a rapper. I read his book. I forget the first book he wrote. I forget the name of it. And it's kind of getting old at this point. He's written other ones since then, but it's a great book. I think it's called Black Privilege. And he talked about how he really wanted to be a rapper. And he got a job at a radio station sweeping the floors. And he got his opportunity to use the studio and discover that he really wasn't very good at it. But he really wanted to do it. But what he discovered from that experience was that he was really good at DJing and really good at talking to people and interviewing people. And that's how he found what he does today. He really found his calling. So he's a really great example of how he followed his desire. And even though the desire kind of shifted at some point, it brought him to what his purpose was and what his calling was. And I think everybody gets better than them. And was he disappointed when it's like, damn, I really suck at rapping? It just ain't going to happen. Like, I'm sure he was disappointed. He saw that as a failure, but he got past that. So if he was the kind of guy that was just like, going to go, like cry himself to sleep every night because he can't be a rapper, he might be working at Target now. But he didn't do that. He just kept it moving. And so I think that's the difference and that's why I don't like the participation trophies. I mean, I would prefer to teach kids that, you are going to have disappointments. You can't win them all, right? Like my boyfriend loves to play poker and he'll get all sad when he loses. And we always say, you're not always going to win. You can't always win. So I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I in any way say you shouldn't encourage people to be their best selves. Like I'm a big fan of that, of encouragement. If you want more, go get more. If you want to achieve something, do everything you can to go achieve that thing. And I'm behind you. But I do think that sometimes we do create a culture of, you can get, not like you said, what you desire in life and the things that you truly want. Like your burning desires, you need to go after those things. But I do think that sometimes we are in a culture of, you can have anything you want, and I just don't think that is, it's just not possible. Like, I think if you were to poll most people, right? Like just walking down the street, take like the first 10 people you walk into, maybe one day we'll do this when we bring our podcast to the streets.
Yeah, that would be good.
After the Rona is like die down, but like, if you were to poll the first 10 people and you were to say, if you could have anything in life, what would you really want? I think most people would probably say some form of money. Like, I want to be a millionaire, right? And I'm saying most people. Some people might be more introspective than that. Some people may, say, well, I want good health, or I want, who knows? But I think most people say, well, I want $1 million. I want to be a millionaire, right? Odds are all of those 10 people ain't going to be millionaires. I don't care if that's their biggest burning desire in life. It's not going to happen.
But I don't think that's really what they want. I think you have to dig deeper. Like, well, what does that represent to you? Because money represents different things to different people. It can be safety and security because you grew up poor and you didn't have enough money for food. That, well, if I have money, I will never have to worry about not having food again. But you don't have to be a millionaire to be financially stable. So, and this is something David talks about a lot, is he's like, whenever I ask people how much money they want to make, they almost always say $1 million because they haven't really thought about it. they haven't actually sat down and did like, okay, well, this is how much money I would need to have all the things that I really want in my life, and this is how much it would cost after taxes. Most people are not doing that. I've done it just because I've had these coaching experiences, but most people haven't done that. So they just go, $1 million, because it sounds like a lot, right? Oh, I'm a millionaire. I got $1 million. But what does it really mean? What does it mean to have $1 million?
Also, if you live in the Northeast, having $1 million probably doesn't mean that much, to be honest with you. But, you know, I guess that depends on
perspective. It depends who you are. Right, yes, perspective. It depends who you are. It
depends on perspective.
If you make like 20 grand a year and you're working at McDonald's, $1 million probably sounds like, you know, Bill Gates money.
Yeah.
But I surgeon who makes 500,000, $1 million doesn't really sound like that much.
I think that Christina, you have the benefit, and I think that in some ways I do too, of you have the ability, and whether it's through coaching or just because of who you are, to do a lot of self-evaluation and self, you know, inspection that I think a lot of people don't do. So if you said to yourself, I want $1 million, you probably would ask yourself that question and go, well, why do I want $1 million? What does that mean to me? What does that represent to me? But most people aren't doing that. So I think that when I have this overall general comment of just telling people who aren't going to do that extra work, you can get whatever you want, to me is dangerous. I don't think you should just say to people, you can get whatever you want. Like, you can say you can get whatever you want if you, with conditions, if you put your mind to, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to, right. Like, if you're willing to do these things.
Yeah, they need all that.
Right. Like,
all that extra stuff.
I think you need all of those things. And I think that not everybody has a David. You know what I mean? To basically sit you down and be like, okay, this is what you want. But how are you going to get it? How do you propel yourself to that? And then just people sometimes hear a message of you have the ability to get whatever you want. And they're not doing the extra shit that you need to hear with that. So I'm just saying, if we're going to give that message out, and I don't necessarily even mean you and me, because I kind of think you and I probably would do the extra shit with it. Like, say, okay, well, you have the ability to do this, but let's unpack it. That just this overall, you know, broadcasted message of like, everyone can be Michael Jordan. Well, you know, you can't. Like you have to.
Who's saying that? I guess, like, if it's not us, are you talking about the teachers or whoever that are giving out these participation trophies?
You know, I think that's some of it. I think a lot of it comes from, like, you know, and maybe it's because of stuff I subscribe to. Like, I do subscribe to a lot of like motivational, like I just do. Like, you listen to it, you're like, yeah, like, let me get up and seize the day, you know? So I think because sometimes I am hearing those things, that I do sometimes feel like, wow, like it's a lot, like, for you to give this message without giving people the background. And I've heard some really good motivational people, and I've heard some people where I'm like, yo, you're setting people up for failure because you're not giving them any tools to do what you're telling them to do. You're just saying you can do it. And I just don't think that's enough.
Well, I don't know. I don't know any coaches who only say that and don't, like, you can't just take the pieces you like and disregard the rest. Because David will say that all the time is, you know, like, remember that book, The Secret? I didn't read it. And whoever is familiar with it, tell me if I'm wrong, but what I understand about The Secret is it basically says that if you just visualize what you want, it's just going to come to you. Like, it's just magically going to appear.
The people swore by, like, the guy was on Oprah. Like, people were swearing by, like, all you have to do is just visualize, and then it will happen. And I think a lot of people eat that shit up. And I'm like,
that'd be fucking great if life was that easy.
I know.
Well, David doesn't teach that. He teaches you, like, you have to visualize it, because if you don't have a vision in your head, not like some woo-woo thing, but almost like affirmations, like telling yourself, like, I can do this. I can have the life that I desire, but you have to do something to get it. It's not going to just happen magically.
Well, the thing about all of this is that David's also a coach. So his job is to coach you there. Like, his job is not to just tell you you can do it. So I wouldn't think that he would just say, oh, visualize it and it will come. So when I make these comments without having participated in anything David did, I'm excluding him because I'm just making the assumption that if this is somebody you work with, that's not. I'm talking about the people that are going, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And I'm like, no, you need more than belief. You need more than to visualize. You need more than just to say, I really want this. And whatever I want is going to come to me because that's just what I'm told. You know what I mean? I think like just having that, like, oh, I'm just going to tell you can do it is not enough. I think that you need to say, like, you can do it, but let's talk about how you're going to do it. Let's come up with a plan. Let me support you in that way and not just give blanket statements of affirmations. So Bettina says it is true that if you can see it, then you can achieve it. So I don't know. I disagree. I think that everything,
I agree with Bettina.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that just because you can visualize something doesn't mean that you can do it. And maybe that's a lack of faith on my part. Like maybe
you know what you need? You know what you need, Robin?
What do I need?
You need David Nagel.
God damn it with David Nagel. Let me tell you something.
I invited you to the Art of Success Summit, damn it. You should have gone.
And anybody who saw my damn social media today saw that I was doing a trial in a freaking hearing in my office. So David would have said, why don't you go and make some money and do what the hell you're supposed to be doing today? That's what he would have said.
No, like I'm telling you, I know I have drunk the David Kool-Aid like for a long time now, but he's changed my life. No, he hasn't changed my life. I take responsibility for changing my own life, but I have done that very much with his tutelage and his influence. And it's not just him. I've had other coaches, I've read a lot of books, and I try to be self-aware. I think that might be like really at the core of what we're even talking about is being self-aware, just knowing what you really, really want in your heart of hearts. Like, what kind of life do you want for yourself? And having faith in yourself that you can have that. Not that it's going to happen magically. You have to do something to have that. That's like me sitting here saying, I really want a piece of cake. And then just sitting here waiting for the piece of cake. Well, I either have to go buy the ingredients and make the cake, or I've got to go somewhere and buy the cake, right? Like, it's not going to just happen because I want it. And that's part of life, is figuring out, well, what do I need to do to get those things?
Oh, yes, I agree with that. And Bettina asked me a question of, how do you do anything if you don't visualize? And she said, how did you open your law firm? Did you not visualize? Of course I did.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that you don't need to visualize, right? I agree with you. You can't do anything if you don't first visualize it and put it in your head, I'm going to do this. What I am saying is that doesn't mean everything you visualize you can do. Can't do anything without visualizing it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that every single thing that you visualize, you automatically can do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I really
that's why I think there's a distinction.
I really like what Bettina just said too. I'm not talking about emotions. There are still Black children out there who only know their neighborhood and do not know anything past that is possible. And I think that's so true. That's something that I talk about a lot, is because I grew up very poor, and I watched all these other people just continue to be poor. And I could never, still to this day, can't always understand, like, how are you okay being poor? I mean, I was able to get out of it, but there is a very real cycle of poverty. And you know what? There's a cycle of wealth too, because you learn what you grow up around. And a lot of people just don't know how to get out of that. And even more than that, they don't actually believe that they can. They don't actually believe that they can. So the reason I think it's so crucial that people be allowed to have these beliefs that they can do better and that they can have anything they want is because if they don't believe that, they won't even try. And that's why it's so important.
Yes. And I do agree that you have to explain to people, or sometimes tell, because there might be people in that position that don't even think that they can do different things. But what I do think is that we have to go past, in my opinion, exercises in visualization.
Oh, yeah.
To exercises in coaching, which is more like, okay, you have the ability to move past poverty. You have the ability to get all of these things that you're thinking about getting. All right, now how are we going to do that? Because you can't just say, it's kind of like when people talk about, you know, if I sit on the couch and I think about getting in shape, I ain't getting in shape. I can visualize it all I want, right? If I'm just sitting on the couch and I'm thinking about, boy, I really could be in great shape. I could be in amazing shape. I could have freaking, you know, Angela Bassett arms. Yeah, I could think about that all I want. If I don't get off the fucking couch, that's not going to happen. And I may need somebody to say to me, you know what, you're right, Robin. You can have Angela Bassett arms. Here's how we do that. Here's the plan. You know what I mean? Yeah. But understand that you can get there. You can absolutely do it. I'm all for that. But I do think that we set people up for disappointment when we give them only the vision and not the plan.
Well, but isn't there some personal responsibility? I mean, they have to learn. Like, that's the part about being self-aware. I mean, just because you read in a magazine or you saw some stupid Facebook quote that said, you know, you can have everything you want, aren't you going to investigate that a little further? I mean, if these people are disappointed because they're sitting on their couch and whatever they want isn't magically appearing, that's on them. They got to figure that shit out.
Yeah, but I just feel like personally, and maybe I am doing people a disservice, but I think that personally, I disagree that I'm doing anybody a service by just saying, you can do it, giving them a smack on the ass and walking away. Like, I think, like, yes, if I'm going to sit and talk to people about, like, you can achieve your goals, you can do more than you want to do, you know, or be more than what you are right now, if that's what you really want. I personally think that I need to say, okay, let's talk about how you're going to do that. Because it's going to take more than that.
I guess maybe, I don't know, I guess I'm having a hard time with, like, understanding who you're talking about. Like, the teachers in school saying, if you can dream it, you can be it. I think it's a Walt Disney quote.
I mean,
with like, that's it. Like, no further explanation.
I do think on some level I see a lot of that message. That's just what I see. I think that we're living in a world of if you can see it, you can do it. If you, whatever you want, you can, and I think that that's great. I'm just saying we need something to back that up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, I tend to agree with you there because I didn't, all the things I'm saying now, you know, I become so much more aware of all of this and only in the past few years. And from coaching. Which really, you don't have to go to coaches. I mean, it's about educating yourself, however you choose to do that. If it's from reading or, you know, talking to other people or coaching or whatever it is, and that's how you learn to do that. So if somebody says to you, you know what, Robin, you know, if you, whatever you want to be, if it's not a lawyer or, you know, whatever vision you have for your law firm, you can have that. You absolutely can have that. And then I just walk away. Isn't your next question sort of going to be like, well, how can I have that? And then you're going to start investigating. Well, how can I have that?
But yeah, I would. And even when we're looking at the peanut gallery, Bettina would, because she said the same thing. She goes, I didn't have people showing me how to do shit. I propelled myself. I figured it the fuck out and I did it. But here's my news flash to you, Bettina, and you, Christina, and me, Robin. Not everyone's us. I remember somebody saying that to me, that I was frustrated with someone, that they kept saying to me, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I was like, okay, you want it. Let's do this. Here is the plan. Let's, and there was no there was no real hunger. It was just, I want it and I don't understand why I can't have it because I want it. But and you're kind of like,
I think those people are responsible for themselves. If they're not going to go and try to figure shit out and they're just going to sit on the couch, that's on them. Like, I don't want to say it's their problem, but there's plenty of people that are willing to help you if you just ask. Are they even asking? I mean, that's a big problem for a lot of people, is people are embarrassed. We all feel like we have to be perfect and we have to portray this image of perfection all the time and we know everything. But when you have to ask for help because you don't know how to do something, you kind of have to acknowledge like some imperfection, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have trouble with that.
Right.
So, and I think we were talking about the guy, changing the garbage bags. Assuming that's not what he wants for himself.
Right.
He needs to do whatever he needs to do to go figure out like what he wants and then how to get that.
Yeah.
Or but I mean, who grew up in poverty, that's where I think teachers and the schools they really are in such an incredible position to be very influential and inspire kids that aren't getting a lot at home. Mm-hmm. And I think teachers are grossly underpaid. That's another show. But
yeah, I mean, we could probably have a whole like episode about, teachers and the stuff that they do and the amount of money they should be making. And God bless all of them, because I know I don't have the patience to do it. I don't have the patience to teach. I can tell you that. But I think that the conversation that's happening in the peanut gallery is we're getting a lot of people listed. Like, how did these people do this? How did these people do that? How did Jeff Bezos do it? How did Steve Jobs do it? They worked their asses off, and not everybody's going to do it.
And they had plenty of failure. That's another thing. Yeah. They had plenty of failure.
And they knew how to deal with the disappointment. They knew how to deal with failure. They knew how to deal with being disappointed. They knew how to deal with rejection and being told no. Like, if you don't know how to deal with all of those things and you think that life should just be handed to you on a silver platter, and when it's not, you pitch a fucking fit, you're not going to make it. That's kind of what my issue is. Like, you have to be, like, I feel like armed for that. And sometimes I feel like people aren't. They aren't armed for the fact that they're going to fail. And I'm sure all of those people did fail, 100 times before time 101, when they were like, okay, I did it.
But how many people do you think there are in this world who really could have been something? And I don't mean rich and famous and all that. I mean, just had the desire that they want for themselves, whatever that was. If they had just had some faith in themselves, because not everybody's getting that. Like Natalia said, people want things but don't want to do things for them. Yeah, that's sort of where I was going before with, people saying they want $1 million. Because, there's some incredible percentage of the people that win the lottery blow through all the money and they're broke.
That would be me.
Percentage of them.
Yeah, I know how I would spend
all this stupid shit.
If I won the Mega Millions, I would go and buy like a gold yacht. Like, I would blow it all of it. Like, develop a cocaine habit. Like, I would come up with some way to blow this money.
It's because they want the stuff. Like, everybody wants the stuff. When I say, what do you want? Like, when I pose that question, I'm not really talking about what do you want to buy. I mean, some of it might be what you want to buy. Like, what kind of lifestyle do you want? But what do you really want for yourself? Like, for me, I want to be financially comfortable. Mm-hmm. And then, what does that mean? Like, we can get into a whole conversation about, well, what does that mean? That could
mean. We talked about the fact that means different, right? That means different things to different people. Because to you, that may mean one number, where to somebody else. I was watching, I don't remember what, it might have been like House Hunters or something like that last night. And the woman on the show, what she was looking for was basically a minimalist house. She did not want wasted space. She did not want like extra shit. She wanted like a small house that was compact, that was just enough room for what she needed for her and her husband. Now, what was funny was that her husband wanted like a big house, which I was like, well, how do you find these people, house hunters? Like, how do you even find these people? But I just found that to be very interesting, because I'm looking at her and thinking to myself, like, what would my life be like if I could develop that mentality of I need just enough? You know what I mean? Like, I don't need 50 pairs of shoes.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, if that's what you do, then you should have those things, but you have to work for them.
No, I'm not saying that I shouldn't have to, but I just find that to be very interesting, that we always assume that people want more, and not everybody does. You know, like I think that kind of goes back to not everybody's unhappy with certain standards. Somebody might go and look at her house and go like, don't you want to get a bigger house? Like, aren't you looking to upgrade? And for her, the answer would be no.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I want, you know?
I mean, more doesn't always have to mean more stuff. You know, more to some people could be, well, I want more free time. You know, I want more vacation time. I don't want to have to work as hard as I do. I want more time off, or I want, you know, to just be able to spend more time with my family all together. Or I want, you know, to indulge in hobbies that I have more. I mean, it doesn't always have to be stuff, you know?
Right.
And then I want to comment on something Steve said, that parents are extremely influential, extremely in all caps, because I totally agree with that.
And that's a big deal. Caps mean a lot.
Yes, yes. And schools go only so far. And I totally agree with you there. Parents are extremely influential. And unfortunately, what that means is that when you have bad parents, they are extremely influential too. And so when I say that I think the schools are in a really wonderful position to be inspiring to kids, I'm really talking more about the kids that don't have good parenting at home, or who have abuse at home, or poverty at home. Not that you can't have great parents who are in poverty, because it's
right
to imply.
But you can also have good parents that really just don't know how to influence you in that way. Like, if you have parents who, you know, who maybe never really did some of the things that you're aspiring to do. Like, so let's say, for example, you had parents who never went to college. They may not even know how to push you in that direction, even if that's something that you really want. And you may then need the schools to say, like, we can help you with that. Like, we can help you apply to colleges. Like, I know I was representing somebody in a case, and she had never been to college. Like, she didn't know the application process. She didn't understand it. She didn't know what like, when I talked to her about the fact that she was going to have to do this FAFSA for her son, she was like, what are these words you're saying? So, you know, the reality is she was a great parent and still is, but she just didn't have the tools, because she didn't know, you know, she didn't have the tools to give her child, you know, the influence that he needed. Not for lack of want, she just didn't have the tools.
Well, I mean,
I think that's where the schools can come in.
But she was encouraging the child to go to school.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah.
When I talk about this stuff, I'm thinking more about the family that is like the kid who's like, oh, well, none of my parents even graduated from high school. So it wouldn't occur to them always that they could make something of themselves and go to school and be educated and go to college or get a graduate degree. Sometimes that seems so far away and so out of reach for them that they don't even think about it, and they don't even try. And that's where I think, you know, someone in school, or someone like Barack Obama, or, you know, somebody in the media, sometimes an athlete, can just be that thing, that little spark that kid needs to be able to desire something a little bigger than what he or she sees around him. And, you know, that's what I think is so important.
Bettina says her mom still doesn't understand FAFSA, and she graduated in 2002. Bettina, I really still don't understand FAFSA, and I graduated in 2002 as well. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that there might be some parents that, you know, because they don't know that life, may not encourage it. You know, they may just say, look, this is what I did. I swept floors, you're going to sweep floors. That's just what it is.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. A great story that Oprah tells is that when she was a little girl, I think it was her grandmother, because I think her grandmother raised her for part of her life, was somebody's housekeeper, and she was doing laundry and pinning them on a clothesline, and her grandmother said, come over here and, I'm going to show you how to do this, because you're going to have to learn, because you're going to do this one day too. And Oprah said that I thought to myself, even at this very young age, I remember thinking to myself, I just knew instinctively that I was not going to do that was not going to be my life. And the question is like, for me, is like, wonder where that thought came from. Like, how did she know that? But not everybody gets there, right? Like, if Oprah wasn't the brilliant woman that she is, she might have just been like, oh, I guess grandma's right. I guess I'm going to be a housekeeper too. And whatever would have inspired her to be what she's become.
Well, I know what needs to happen. Oprah needs to come on the podcast.
Yes,
And
she does.
Look, I come with solutions, Christina. I come with solutions. So what needs to happen, Oprah, I know you're listening. I know you're watching. I know that you're probably on this live right now. And I get that you don't want to comment because you're Oprah. But I know you're watching. So here's what you can do. You can send us an email at shittalkingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can just DM us and just let us know when you're free, and we'll bring you on, and we'll ask you that. I guarantee you we'll make time for you. I guarantee, even if we have another guest lined up, we will bump that guest for you. But we're going to ask that question of what gave you that instinctual, just gut knowledge for you at a young age to know, I can be more than this, and I will be more than this.
Well, I bet she has talked about it, and I wonder if her answer was that she felt like God just put it there.
Well, Natalia said something interesting. She said, realistically, some people work hard and make it, and some people will work hard and never make it.
Well,
and that kind of sucks.
What does make it mean? I guess that would be the question.
I think if we're talking about making it towards whatever their end goal is, whatever it is they really, really want in life. I'm sure that there are people out there that do bust their ass to get to whatever they did visualize, and they didn't for some reason. Maybe they were
working towards the wrong goal.
Well, that's kind of like you said. Maybe they were working towards being a rapper instead of a DJ.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, this is one of the times, Christina, where I'm not sure if we solved all of the world's problems. And I feel like we almost got there. Like, we're close. We're close to solving the world's problems.
We didn't, but this was a good topic. And I think in some strange way, we did sort of stay consistent with the topic for the evening.
I think we did. I think that we did. And you know what? Guys, don't get used to it. This means nothing for next week. Okay? Like, this means absolutely nothing.
Whatever the topic is, it's always good, right? You just know about it in advance.
Don't worry about what Facebook says the topic is. Just join us live at 6:00 Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to talk about something. That's what you know. There's going to be a conversation about something.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, this was a good one. I enjoyed it. We definitely went way over our time, so that's how you know it was good.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Well, thank you for watching and participating, you guys. We always appreciate our peanut gallery, especially our regulars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And we always have every intention of repurposing these and uploading them to the podcast and putting them on YouTube. So if you didn't get to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing, you can find us in one of those places. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here.
Hey, and subscribe to our podcast, guys. Go where you go to your podcast, whether it's Apple or what are these other newfangled ones, Spotify, wherever you get your shit. Subscribe, comment, and download.
Yeah, and if there's a topic that you would love for us to talk about, send us a private message on one of these social media platforms, and we are happy to entertain it. All right, have a good night, guys.